So in today's session, you're going to hear from 6 panelists representing LADWP, Metrolink, and SoCalGas, and each is going to highlight how their organization's green teams have changed over the last year. They'll discuss new practices might be here to stay. The speakers are going to present briefly at a high level, so please save your questions for the end of our session, where we hope to respond to some of them and do a little bit more of a panel type discussion. Without further ado, I want to invite Paola Adler from LADWP to begin her short presentation. Paola is a Angeles Department of Water and Power. Originally from San Diego, Paola's worked in the communications field for 9 years in a variety of different industries, both public and private. She earned a Master of Communication Management degree from USC and also has a bachelor's degree in International Studies from UC San Diego. She's passionate about using her communication skills to promote positive social change and build a better world, which is why she joined LADWP's Green Team Council. Okay, Paola, I'm going to advance to your first slide. Please take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Paola Adler. So I am a member of LADWP's Green Team, but today I'm actually going to talk about LADWP and our internal communications. So I want to talk about how COVID-19 limitations actually led to more innovative, collaborative, and inclusive internal communications. Next slide. So LAWP is a really large organization. We have over 11,000 employees and we're spread across multiple locations. And a lot of our employees actually work in the field. So they don't always have access to digital communications in the way that our office employees do. So they might not have email, they might not have teleconferencing ability. Some of them don't even have access to a computer on a regular basis. So it's always been challenging to reach these employees, and we've always been trying to think of better ways to reach them. One of the most effective tools for our internal communications has been in-person events. A lot of times we kind of culminate our internal campaigns with a big event, interacting with employees, making sure our messages are getting across and having fun. And it's been a really great tool for us. I also want to note that even though a lot of office employees had teleconferencing abilities, it was quite limited. Not everybody had an account, so it wasn't a common culture for virtual meetings to be taking place. Next slide. So COVID-19 hit and we were faced with a lot of challenges, but there were also some opportunities. So like many other workplaces, a lot of our workforce was telecommuting. And if people were in the office for essential reasons, they had to socially distance. So that did lead to a lot of behavior change. We weren't able to reach people in the same way that we had been able to before, and people had to adapt to new processes. But there were some positives because of the situation where people were distanced. We had to expand our digital communication tools. So our field employees received emails and they were able to utilize that on a regular basis. And teleconferencing was much expanded. A lot more people had accounts, so they were able to set up meetings. We were able to host events. We had the bandwidth to do that. So that was a big change. Also, internal communications was kind of elevated because of the need to get timely information about COVID-19 health and safety out to our employees. Our management really relied on us to be able to provide this information consistently and gave us a lot of leeway to try new things and to innovate. I also think that there was a need for connection because everybody was feeling a little bit isolated and wanted to know what other employees were doing, and that was kind of a benefit for us. Next slide. So I want to talk about two examples that kind of showed how we innovated, were more collaborative and more inclusive. So our first example is our COVID-19 communication strategy. So when the second wave hit last year, it was really important for us to step up and make sure that our employees had information really on a regular basis about what was going on, what the latest safety information was, and that they had a trusted source and a resource for them. So our management challenged us to think of new ways to try to reach employees where they were and to try new things. So one of the ways we did this was we created an externally facing website that we were updating on a daily basis with the latest bulletins, policies, videos, messages from our general manager. And this kind of became a really trusted resource for our employees that they were visiting on a regular basis. We also tried to reach employees on their personal devices, so via text, via their personal emails, to try to reach them even when they might not be connected at work, so they had the latest information. We also really built up our field safety contacts to make sure that our employees in the field had resources to be able to get the latest information. So we were able to disseminate information through our network. And that was a really great help for us. And we want to continue to sustain that. But we also wanted to have certain interactive events, even if we weren't going to be in person or in the office. So we did host a vaccine panel with our chief physician, Dr. Israel, and that was really well received to try to dispel myths and some of the misinformation about vaccines. Next slide. So another example is our Women's Month celebration. We did this completely virtually over WebEx, and this really helped with the collaboration and the inclusivity portion. So we were able to connect with our union to try to get representatives on the panel that maybe we might not have considered before. And a lot of the people on the panel were field employees. It would have been really difficult to try to get them into an in-person event to work with their schedules. And this really helped us collaborate and meet and get everything ready for when the panel was going to happen. So this really made things a lot more inclusive. It was such a great opportunity to engage with our field employees and to have more people participate. Another great adaptation was that we were able to have private comments. So when our Commissioner McLean Hill was asking for input about how we can better empower female employees, people were encouraged to share their thoughts because it was a safe space. So this is something that we wouldn't be able to do in a live environment. Next slide. So where are we going forward? So we already had a lot of plans in the works before COVID to try to digitize our communications. We're working on trying to modernize our intranet currently, and we've been working on that for a while. But I think what COVID-19 did is it helped us accelerate a lot of these plans and really showed our management the importance of consistent, trusted communication to our employees. And now that we've piloted a lot of these things, we want to try to increase them, excuse me, and to try to utilize them going forward. So we want to try to increase our personal email and text to not just COVID-19 communications, but other internal initiatives. And we want to continue to have virtual events. This is a photo or a screenshot from our most recent event this week to highlight Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And we had 16 employees from across the department participate. It really went well. And I think that it's great to be able to include more people and also have it in a setting where people are able to join, and it is a lot more inclusive. And that's it for me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Paola. And thank you for also bearing with the transition delay. I have an internet service outage in my neighborhood today. So I wanted to appreciate the fact that this virtual presentation setting does not come without surprises and let folks who are delay on slide transitions. And stick with it. I think that sense to have that quick moment between slides. Another one of my colleagues of Water and Power, he is Don Tran. Don Tran is an environmental specialist in LADWP's environmentally preferred purchasing policy implementation and carbon disclosure project reporting. Don, please take it away.
Thank you, Ryan. So I want to briefly talk about how COVID-19 affected a really specific initiative here at DWP. It's one that the Green Team has been working on for quite some time. Next slide, please, Ryan. So in 2020, the LADWP Green Team, as of January, started the Print Less initiative. And as part of the Print Less initiative, DWP implemented duplex printing as a standard. We overall tried to reduce how much paper we use as an organization. But then one of the issues identified were the orphan prints that we as an organization produce. An orphan print is when someone prints some documents and never picks them up, they get abandoned at the printer. And so this exerts a real environmental and financial cost to the department. And we also found that potentially these abandoned documents could pose an information security risk if it has anything sensitive on it. And so what we did was we collected 4 months of orphan prints data. And then as a green team, we asked our green team members to go into their specific offices and collect orphan print data throughout the department. That way we could normalize the data and figure out if this is a really common practice throughout DWP. And so that was January of 2020. And as you all know, by March of 2020, we were sent home for COVID. Ryan, next slide, please. So COVID posed some real challenges for our orphan prints portion of the Printless initiative. There are some questions about data quality, whether or not we could really measure reduction through this one action. It also was a challenge because of the changing landscape. IT was now focused on making sure everyone could safely telecommute from home and supporting this technological shift. And it also challenged us as a green team to really see, like, how could we step up and make sustainability relevant as we're shifting from being in the office to home? How can we address this urgent issue? How can we, play our part as part of this organization? Next slide, please, Ryan. So in response to this, one of the things that was done was we shifted from going paper pay stubs to digital pay stubs. And as Paola mentioned earlier, this was the Herculean task, just to make sure that every DWP employee had access to email. Everyone was set up to be part of a teleconferencing, and to make sure that the digital pay stubs were delivered in a manner that everyone could easily access. And one of the other things we did was we shifted the priority from our orphan prints project to measure the environmental and financial savings of going digital overall, just as a whole, as a department. Next slide, please, Frank. And so as a result, we found that having organizational changes from changing from paper pay stubs to digital pay stubs resulted in huge savings. Over 70,000 pieces of paper, or about 644 pounds of CO2 equivalent, were averted just by a really simple change. We still have on the table potentially millions of pieces of papers we could avert by continuing to be digital and using digital documents. We're actually planning on measuring the stickiness of some of the adopted practices from COVID, and seeing how many of these practices still continue into the future as people transition back in the office. And also seeing how the green team can play a role in supporting those practices. We also learned to shift our priorities to be a little more organizational. As we move into the future, we plan on piloting 100% recycled content paper, just to make sure that if we do print at DWP, it'll have less of an environmental impact. Next slide, Ryan.
Thank you, Dawn. I really appreciate that contribution. We're going to transition now to Metrolink. We have our first speaker from Metrolink is Lisa Collichio, Sustainability Director for Metrolink, the third largest regional rail service in the nation. Lisa's leading the path to zero emissions future with the recent development of a 2030 climate action plan, powered by advanced technologies of battery electric, fuel cells, and alternative. So thank you, Lisa. Go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm really pleased to be joining you today and talk about how Metrolink has been dramatically impacted by COVID-19, how it caused us to emerge a smarter, better, essential agency. Next slide, please. This is an overview to guide my discussion. I'll first begin by talking about our service pre-COVID. Then I'll touch on the impacts we suffered last year as a result of the lockdown, what we've done to be smarter, better, essential, and then end on what changes are here to stay and the new direction we are taking. Next slide, please. Metrolink is the third largest regional rail system in the nation and has been providing service to Southern California since 1992. Our rail transportation service spans 538 miles with 62 stations over 6 counties. We were mostly known as a commuter rail service, with 82% of our riders commuting to work who opt to take the train to avoid the traffic and stress of a vehicle commute on the highways. 2019 was our highest ridership levels in history, with 12 million annual boardings on our trains. A major factor is housing affordability. As the prices for housing escalates near city center cores, people need to travel further out to suburban areas to seek housing they can more readily afford. This creates even more longer freeway commute travel times to work. But by taking the train, our riders are removing 9.3 million vehicles from the roads, which is the equivalent of reducing GHG emissions by 130,000 metric tons of CO2. Also, Metrolink is convenient. 16 million Southern Californians live within a 5-mile radius of one of our stations. Next slide. But then the pandemic hit. Our life came to a screeching halt. Stay-at-home orders forced businesses to shut down, and overnight there was a dramatic drop in employees commuting to the office. We had to severely cut back our service as our fare revenues dropped significantly. We quickly worked to connect with our riders and understand how the pandemic was affecting their travel. We wanted to learn who was still riding our trains, and then what would it take for the customers to feel comfortable and come back to riding the train. We received over 11,000 responses and found that 71% of the customers still riding were essential workers, mostly from the healthcare field. 30% reported they didn't even own a car and were solely reliant on our train service to get to work. What our riders told us overwhelmingly is that they had high concerns for cleanliness, safety, and keeping physical distancing on our trains. But what gave us the most hope is that 81% reported they were likely to return to traveling on the train once we emerged from the pandemic. Next slide. Well, we quickly responded by doubling down on our cleaning service and increasing the number of staff cleaners, as well as the frequency of our cleaning during the day. Also, we enhanced our cleaning equipment and protocols. We installed more hand sanitizing stations, so now every train car has one by each door. We installed HEPA filters so that 99.99% of all contaminants in the air are filtered out to be more clean. We were one of the first transportation agencies to develop an online tool called How Full Is My Train? So customers can go on and check any time in advance and see the number of passengers that are on the train they want to ride. Make sure that they feel safe and it's not overcrowded. Our employee green team was launched just last year, so we're very early on in our green team journey compared to others. But we are very grateful to participate in this larger forum and safe space, as we have so much to learn from each other, and we can all benefit by collaborating and sharing best practices. 20% of our employees who are passionate about the environment raised their hand to join our green team. They wanted to be involved and roll up their sleeves and help develop our environmental plan. We published our first ever climate action plan just earlier this year. and it includes aggressive goals and targets we want to achieve over the next 10 years through 2030 and accelerating a zero emissions future. Our stretch goal is to be a zero emissions railroad, but our moonshot is to do it by 2028, just in time for the Olympics. And that will bring millions of people to our region. The impact of these events will be significant, and the potential to create massive car congestion on our freeways and increase carbon emissions in our air. But Metrolink's in a unique position to contribute to the emissions reduction of these events and help mitigate the impacts on our communities. The road to zero emissions will not be easy for Metrolink. Many of the advanced technologies we need, like hydrogen fuel cell and battery electric locomotives, aren't readily available today. But that's not stopping us from turning over every stone. What is available today is renewable diesel. We're performing pilot testing right now. And renewable diesel is mostly a plant-based product, and it's fossil fuel-free. Any diesel engine, large or small, can replace standard petroleum for renewable fuel. We're very hopeful, as the testing right now that we're doing is very successful. We like to say our locomotives are on a plant-based diet for the planet. And if all goes well throughout the testing process, we intend to plan next year and transition our fleet 100%. Next slide. The pandemic was a catalyst that really forced us to be innovative and think differently. We have pivoted away from being a commuter rail service and now are focused more broadly in taking customers anywhere they want to go, to work, to home, for fun, and anywhere in between. To better cater to the needs of employees who are working from home, we launched a telecommute pass, where riders can use 5 one-day passes at a discount anytime throughout a 30-day period. We launched a Kids Ride Free program on weekends to help parents plan leisure trips with their family and get a break from homeschooling and get out and explore SoCal destinations. We also created a customer loyalty program to reward riders with points they could earn for traveling on the train that can be redeemed at restaurants, retailers, and attractions throughout Southern California. And we also developed a program called Explore SoCal. It encourages customers to ride for leisure and explore the many different familiar destinations as well as new destinations around Southern California that are easily accessible by train. While what we have all suffered through is a life-altering and tragic event, it really has transformed Metrolink Agency, both our employees and our perspectives, as well as our relationship with our customers. We have really emerged smarter, better, and essential. Thanks, Ryan, and I turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. We're going to move on to your colleague at Metrolink, Amber Moyers. Amber Moyers manages Metrolink's corporate partner program. She works with companies and organizations in California and enables them to provide transit benefits and chairs the community committee for Metrolink's new sustainability program. Administration from the University of Southern California and is the board president of her local community emergency. Turn it over to you, but I wanted to quickly do a time check as well. Planned timing for this presentation. So brevity is really encouraged for the remaining presenters. Thank you so much.
Someone that skipped out, but I think I'm on. Luckily, I speak really fast, so we can go to the next slide, Ryan. So as Ryan mentioned, I manage our corporate partners, but I'm also part of the marketing team and I'm in the green team. So my folks will be really around the Earth Day campaign that we've had the last couple of years. In 2019 was our first time doing Ride Free on Earth Day, which is really where we were moving forward. Back in 2019 and 2020. We'll talk a little bit about the COVID restrictions, as everybody knows, and how it affected how we start to plan and move forward in the future, what we did this year, and share some of the results and what we're planning for the future. Next slide. So as I mentioned, in 2019, it was the first time that we did a Ride Free for Earth Day, we encouraged everybody to download our mobile app to receive a free round trip ticket. It was extremely successful with 48% of an increase in ridership that day. And over 8,000 folks downloaded our mobile app. We also had a pop event at Union Station. We had our CEO on the train giving giveaways and then some surprise pop-ups along the way. Next slide. As you know, COVID-19 hit us hard. As Lisa mentioned, we had a 90% reduction in ridership, but we also had to be very cognizant of social distancing and physical distancing on our train. So we weren't going to encourage everybody to get on the train in one day as we had in the past. A lot of folks are working from home, so we knew that we can't really reach people the same way we did. So we had to figure out a new way to be a little bit more innovative, creative, and working with new partners in order to get out the messaging. Next slide. So what we did this year, which is a lot of people have seen, is going virtual. So quick backstory, back in December, I was managing our holiday campaign and I had to write it 3 times in order to pivot along the way as like ridership went, the spikes went in. So coming into Earth Day, we knew that we just wanted to go virtual 100% and try to do something a little bit more new to engage with our riders and with folks that were working from home. So we did a virtual sustainability challenge that was a week-long challenge, from going plant-based to recycling, being cognizant of drought-free, saving energy. And then over the weekend, we did a community cleanup with our MetroLink Cares initiative. We partnered with several organizations across California. So as I mentioned, as corporate partners, but we also met with some members of the community, BTMO and Go Glendale, to kind of amplify that messaging and get as many people involved. We also gave everybody that entered the challenge an opportunity to win a monthly pass. And we had 2 different webinars as well as walk and learns, which are short 20-minute sessions that we have available to employees, which was very successful as well. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we had a great opportunity to be partnering with different organizations. LADWP was one of them. We had Cal State Fullerton, Disney, Warner Brothers pushed out the messaging to their employees, BTMO and Go Glendale. We had a great turnout. We had over 540 people turn up and sign up for the challenge with over 75,000 impressions from our social media campaign. We had over 120 new companies identified that were signing up and trying to get more information about the challenge. And every challenge that we had for the day tied back to something MetroLink was doing. So encouraging people to go plant-based diet for the day. As Lisa mentioned, we have a pilot program that MetroLink locomotives are going plant-based as well, to talk about our renewable energy and everything. So it was really exciting way to get that messaging out. And really what we learned was that we needed to make sure that we partnered with more people, and we had to make sure that we were adapting to just the means and ways of everything going on around us, which was a great way to look forward as well. So as we're looking ahead, we're actually starting to plan already for 2022. Of course, we're hoping to have people on the train for that day, but we're also looking to partner and just making sure that whatever comes our way, we're able to adapt and engage folks in the community. And that's what I have for you. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Amber. We're going to transition now to a couple of speakers from SoCal Gas. They're going to share their time, but I wanted to first introduce both of them. The first speaker will be Ray Robles. Ray is the Asset and Technology Manager for SoCal Gas's support services teams, including real estate, facilities, and fleet organizations. Ray also sustainability strategy, future of working, facilities master plan, safest and most innovative energy company in North America. Gas's mission. Ray graduated from the University of Southern California from Marshall Business School in Business Administration. He has completed a sustainability certification from the University of San Francisco, along with a project management certification from Caltech. Belt certified and an IFMA professional. Speaking after Ray will be Sarita Figueroa. Sarita is Community Relations Manager at SoCal Gas, where she manages STEM education and environmental charitable giving strategy. Her work on climate change, environmental policy, and environmental justice. In her short tenure with SoCal Gas, Sarita has held community programs, outreach, and currently serves as co-chair of the Sustainability Council, which is Sarita believes in efficiency and strives daily to be productive, assertive, and enterprising. Prior to SoCal, focusing on small business banking and home mortgage loans. She holds a BA in English Education and Communication from Cal Poly Pomona University, and she's currently pursuing her. Sarita is a SoCal native, happily married, and proud mother of two. Okay, with that nice introduction, Ray, please take us away for SoCal Gas.
Okay, all right. I'll try to be brief and quick. I just realized I went through a pot of coffee, so I should be pretty energized. And so if I talk too fast, let me know. Well, the pandemic forced many organizations to change and adapt. We're going to talk about the old ways of doing things, like going to the office 5 days a week to our downtown headquarters. We're going to talk about some of the challenges we faced, like from anywhere to 30 to 95% of our office workers were working from home. How we responded and adapted. We'll chat about several exciting workplace strategy initiatives we've also kicked off, and of course touch on our results, such as reducing emissions and water and energy usage, and then of course share some exciting news of our future. Next slide. Sarita.
Hi, so I'm going to talk about how it affected our Sustainability Council. So before, it was easy for most people to join. It was at our downtown LA location. Lunch was served. It was during the lunch hour. So people would join and learn things about sustainability and have social interaction. Almost nobody would call in, although we did have some people that would call in, but it was never on camera. So when COVID hit, it was really interesting for us because we weren't sure how we were going to introduce a virtual platform, if people were going to feel comfortable doing it, and who really has time? You're at home and you're dealing with a bunch of other things and distractions. Your lunch hour is your lunch hour. So we were afraid our membership would really fall. But luckily, the company had already adopted Microsoft Teams, which made it super easy for people just to click and log on. And then surprisingly, we actually got more people attending on a regular basis because there really weren't any obstacles. Next slide. So in the past, there were a lot of in-person meetings in the office. I think my workday, at least 3 to 4 meetings. When we left the office in 2020, March, we had about 1,700 employees at our downtown Los Angeles headquarters. And then of that, about 775 were taking public transit, so Metrolink, rail, bus, and about 679 of those employees were driving in and parking. So a lot of people had heavy commutes, so they were usually coming from anywhere throughout Southern California. I know myself, I was commuting about 2 hours a day, so that was pretty burdensome. Meeting waste, we had a lot of meetings, so that included food scraps. If there was food that was ordered in, coffee cups, printed paper. And a work-life balance was really hard to attain. I think, with the majority of employees coming in 5 days a week, being able to go home and squeeze in, family time, personal time, going to the gym, maybe an errand or two, your time was really limited, and you did a lot of your activities on the weekends. At least I did. Next slide. So some of the immediate challenges that we faced were, first off, were IT upgrades, Wi-Fi accessibility, security challenges. That's something that the company overall just really had a difficult time with. And just because, people are working from home, so we have, 45 plus locations where people may be working from, and now all of a sudden people are home. So how does that affect our security and, threats that come about? Not to mention, do people have a dedicated workspace? Do they need a computer equipment? Do they need a desk chair? What does that look like? And then, as I mentioned before, the workforce had to adopt to a new way of working. So I have 2 little kids at home. My husband's working from home. There's a lot of distractions. They want to eat. The toilets need to be cleaned. The floors are constantly a mess. So, you just have a lot of distractions that you now have to incorporate into your work schedule. And then changes with the team. So our teams, especially my team, was very cohesive. We're a small team of 6. We work together next to one another in our cubicles, and now all of a sudden we're spread out, who knows where, And so just kind of learning how to adapt virtually and through email and just enhancing communication was a challenge that we faced. Next slide.
That slide come through? Let's see. Oh, there we go. So as a company, how did we respond and adapt? We have over 8,000 employees. About 3,600 have been primarily working from home. But I also want to thank those, especially all our other thousands of frontline workers that are working in the field every day during the pandemic. Continually amazed what we do, especially in how we are able to make things happen and continue service, especially during emergency situations. So guys are all incredible. But for our office workers, we did offer employees, we offered a stipend to help improve their homework environment. And we offered flexible work schedules for parents and caregivers of dependents as well. So I think we really wanted to make sure that our employees were able to do what they needed to do. It was a difficult time. And of course, but while all hands were on deck, and we were able to continue to deliver service to our customers as well as our community, we launched several new workplace strategy initiatives, our Future of Work initiative, assessing and looking at how we're working now. And then, of course, now we're planning and strategizing for the future. How is that future going to work? It's exciting to have our leadership committed to looking at new ways of working and improving working situations for all our employees. We also kicked off the real estate master planning initiative to look at how we can further optimize our footprint and our properties, from looking at identifying and potentially repurposing older buildings to design and incorporating our future design strategy in the future. So we also kicked off, a number of our departments kicked off digitization and process automation initiatives. One example is for myself. I had one team member that was requesting to go back into the office. So again, looking at that process, understanding why, and many of the reasons were paper. They had to get paper or they had to file something. So again, it helped the team be more innovative to look at ways of what we can do to automate and work, of course, more in a virtual environment. And at this moment, we're planning for a safe return in June. So again, voluntary return to the office, of course, adhering to safety protocols. And I could speak to many more transforming our business initiatives that we have, but they are many. So it's exciting to see what we're doing. And for our customers, we uninterrupted service. We did not turn off any meters due to non-payment. We contributed over $3.5 million to nonprofit organizations in our territory. We supported the region's workforce, feeding the hungry, providing bill assistance. I think we're pretty awesome. I have to say. Next slide.
And in regards to the green team, so as I mentioned before, we had so many more people attending employees-wise on a regular basis. It was just so much steady. We also upped our internal communications to across the company, and then made sure that our SharePoint documents were up to date so people could log on and get the information that they needed, speaker presentations, et cetera. And then with our speakers, they didn't have to commute. They didn't have to drive down to our downtown LA location. So there really weren't any logistical conflicts. They were able to join from wherever they were, and sometimes they weren't local. So we got to hear from some pretty cool speakers throughout 2020. And then we encouraged our employees as much as possible to do what they could in their neighborhoods, understanding that, things were tough, but you still have to try to be sustainable in your own way. So maybe, now you have time to maybe compost, and now you have time to recycle better, and maybe even just go around your local neighborhood and clean up. We were also able to partner this year with the California State Parks Foundation during their virtual Earth Month event. So that was really nice because those who felt comfortable going out, but not really in person yet, were able to just clean up in their neighborhood and, track their hours, and, because it's a volunteer opportunity for them. So we tried to incorporate it and meet our employees where they were, regardless of where it was. Next slide.
And of course, for not being in the office, we did, we reduced our carbon footprint. We reduced a great deal of energy and water usage, less waste was created. Again, gave us ideas for the future and what we can do to be more sustainable, going forward. And one silver lining during all this difficult time was, having our team able to work from home and be able to provide services while working from home and providing for their families. We also saw, an improvement in employee satisfaction. I mean, we are a company, and it's great to see that, we adapt like everybody. But again, we're able to do such great things. And many of our sustainability projects, instead of them being delayed, we actually accelerated them. Main reason was because we didn't have the employees in these offices. So guess what? It made it a lot easier to implement and make improvements to our buildings. So we replaced old equipment with higher efficiency HVAC units, LED lighting, windows, and some of the wonderful things we did is we installed 2 new fuel cells at 2 of our regional headquarters. So that's exciting because we're seeing incredible things there, not only just for sustainability, but cost savings, at very awesome cost savings. We also deployed real-time monitoring and piloted new energy management and smart building technologies to allow for quick diagnosis, and of course make corrections remotely. But what I'm most excited about is our future plans as a company. We're going to go ahead and complete our strategy and implement a new work model, increase our certifications in LEED and WELL and smart building, green building design, continue to optimize our real estate footprint, and of course, continue to deploy technologies and analytics to monitor our energy, water, and air quality in real time. And of course, it's great, and I'll share on the next slide, is achieve net zero in 100% of all our buildings and our fleet. Next slide. We have made commitments to the public, to our shareholders, to the regulators, and to our community that we are taking a strong commitment to our future and positioned to become truly the cleanest, safest, and most innovative energy company in America. For 2025, our net zero plans include major renovations to all our new construction and buildings over 10,000 square feet, completion of 5 hydrogen projects, reduction in emissions, and increased delivery of renewable natural gas and responsibly sourced gas, replacement of 50% of our fleet vehicles with electric hybrid, RNG, and fuel cells, and of course, more over the years. And by 2025, our goal and what we are committing to achieve is 100% net zero emission for fleet, as of course, all our buildings, making us the largest natural gas utility to make such a commitment. So it's exciting. Like I said, I've been here for around 13 years, and it's just exciting where we're going and what we can accomplish, what we're going to accomplish. Next slide.
All right.
Thank you.
Our slide share here.
Oh, there we go.
I know that we've been having some trouble with internet connectivity, so thank you to our fantastic. I really do want to applaud you all for having persevered, down on some of the inclusivity and information sharing goals that we all shared prior to the pandemic, and also the sustainability goals. Wow. I really got to say, especially from Metrolink and SoCalGas, it's really, really impressive stuff. We have just a couple of moments left, and so I wanted to let you all know that the end of the Gathering of the Green Teams actually isn't right now. We have a little bit longer. It's a 2-session track for today's Municipal Green Building Conference and Expo. So if you would like to participate in the second session, please find it. It's at 2 p.m. The title of it is Gathering of the Green Teams, Climate Action in Corporate America. And there, the session will be moderated by SoCal Edison, and they're going to have a bunch of climate leaders, including Amazon and some other big names, Netflix, I believe, showcasing what their sustainability commitments are, and also kind of, just showing a testament to the fact that we are doubling down on sustainability and that the pandemic is definitely not getting in the way of that. So we hope we'll see you there later this afternoon, and thank you again for having joined our session today. Really appreciate it.